Hello, and welcome to Confidently Wrong, a show by regular dudes talking with confidence about content we have no right to speak about with any kind of authority, but do it anyway. I'm Wesley Nakamura, and as always, I'm joined by award-winning director Brian Redondo and Savon Jones, aka Captain Fonny. This is episode 80, and we hop on Zoom for an emergency podcast about the first episode of House of the Dragon. I'm confident that it's going to be the best show you've ever listened to, and well, hey, if it's not, you can always ask us for a refund.
Incredible!
Hey guys, what's up? I'm coming in with some back from COVID. I'm off the bench, off the PUP list.
You had fake COVID?
What's that called? Just being sick?
Well, no, Kaya got sick. She tested positive for COVID. And then I got sick and never tested positive for COVID, but I had like kind of COVID-y symptoms. It was pretty bad.
You're just not a good test taker.
Yeah, you just went.
I remember that.
Test anxiety, bro.
Yeah, man, you went off the radar. I was like, man, what happened to West? Did he just get banished into the Shadow Realm?
Yeah, man. I haven't been on Apex in like 2 weeks.
Yeah, like it's a new season. We don't hit acting a donkey. West just radio silence.
I kind of thought he was lying about being sick and was just guesting over at the Ringer with Mike.
Oh, you know, side piecing that he was mad about the She-Hulk episode. all the crap we was talking.
Well, we might actually put this episode out before She-Hulk just to be topical. We'll see. I don't know. We'll have to see. Yeah, viewers, you'll find out, I guess, if this one came out first or the other one. All right. Anyways, we're gonna do a quick rundown of the House of the Dragon. I guess it's just House of the Dragon. No the in front, but new HBO series show set in the same universe, same realm as not even same universe. It's literally in the same like country, same situation as Game of Thrones from way back in the day. One of the last probably appointment viewing shows that was out there,
especially pre-pandemic.
Yeah, HBO Max dropped their episode last week. It was a doozy, so we wanted to get on and be topical, get an episode out right as soon as it dropped. Look at us meeting on a Wednesday night. We never meet on Wednesday nights, guys. We're all way too tired.
Saturday mornings.
Yeah,
this is the new hotness, man.
Look, man,
we've recorded one show before in the evening, and it was a hot mess. It was so low energy. It was bad. Like we're gonna try and bring the energy, but.
We had to figure a lot of things out back then. We were still like not figuring out our chemistry. There was a lot of little things. We've grown a lot since then. Right. Yeah, Wes, I was in the trenches and I was talking to the people in the streets and they were saying, "Hey, yo, we trying to talk about that. Y'all talking about the House of Dragon?" I was like, "No, but this is what the people want. Then we gotta do it. We gotta do it for the people." So,
I mean, my Twitter feed blew up about House of the Dragon. So
I know 10 people were talking about it.
I know people were watching it. Lucky you. All right. Okay. So I don't have any followers, but I follow other people and they were talking about it.
Oh, okay. That's how Twitter works.
Let's get into our first question. So we're finally back in Westeros after it's only been 3 years. There's no way. It's been way more than 3 years.
It feels like 30 years, but
2018? So that was 4 years ago, huh? 2019?
2019.
There's no way.
Yep, because that happened. It was mid, and then the pandemic happened.
No,
we should have known.
It feels like that was like at least 5 years ago.
Nope.
Damn. All right.
Well, they did take a big hiatus in between seasons. If you remember, season 8 had the biggest budget of all time, or something like that, and just crazy difficult to film all the battle scenes and the dragons, and
and then that's what they came up with.
Awful writing.
So what are your first thoughts coming back into this familiar setting, but with an entirely brand new cast of characters? The political landscape is completely different. How are we liking this first little tiptoe into House of the Dragon? Savon starts off.
Well, first of all, I wasn't hyped for this show in the slightest. So when I just one day, I was like, oh, wait, this is coming on. So I watched it.
Why not hyped?
Because I was so hurt from Game of Thrones finale, like everybody else. I'm pretty sure the same way everybody feels.
It was so
like
bad.
Everyone I know was like not hyped, and then I think we all just were like, "Oh, there's nothing to watch. F it, let me just put this on, and see what's cracking."
No, it's like you were cheated on by your ex.
People set their alarms for this show. They were ready for this show.
People set their alarms.
Maybe not us, but people.
I was definitely not one of them, and I was like, let me watch it. I'm glad I watched it because despite how Game of Thrones ended on such a sour note, the production value, just how it's all put together, is still just incredible, and just being able to enjoy this production spectacle, that alone is just beautiful to my eyes. Seeing King's Landing, the Iron Throne, these huge castles, these dragons, these beautiful sweeping shots, everybody having
dragons look fantastic.
Everyone having these beautiful ornate armor, and that every bit of armor has a ridiculous backstory behind it. It was nice to get that again, and I kind of forgot how much I was missing that, thinking about other shows I've been watching in that last 3 years. So just to me, first thing, just loving the world of Westeros is still a very fun one to just watch be on screen and exist. And I didn't realize I missed it.
I felt it felt nice. It felt like putting on an old jacket that I hadn't worn in a while. Like it's to my size. It's nice and cozy. I really felt like we were back in kind of like that season 1, season 2 era of Game of Thrones again, where we're trying to figure things out. It's pretty sunny. Like people are having good lives. They're enjoying themselves. There isn't the weight of impending doom hanging over the show in the way that the end of Game of Thrones, like the last two seasons or so, really you're under the specter of the Night King. Is that his name?
Yeah, the Night King.
Right?
Night King.
You're under the specter of the Night King and the White Walkers, and everything feels like everyone's dying and everyone's about to die. It's just everything is coming to an end, right? But in this one, it feels like there's still some hope. Yeah, like maybe there's some like intrigue, there's some battling, but there's still like a ray of sunshine in the kingdom, and it just felt nice to be back in that world rather than the one where everything is just level 10 stress. Brian, how did you feel about coming back?
Well, sometimes when you put on that old jacket and you're reminded of just like how damn fine that thing is.
Yeah.
After 10 minutes wearing that thing, though, you start to sweat in it, and you realize it's got moths flying out of the sleeve and maybe a couple of holes, and it's a little dank.
And the last time you were out, you were wearing that sweater.
You got
probably the same restaurant.
Yeah, I mean, there's like a note in the pocket says, "I'm gonna kill you," and like you're like, "Well, I got to get rid of this thing." So I'm not saying that House of the Dragon is that, but I am saying that I think the comfort of that old jacket that you used to love, sometimes people just have to move on, right? Like
you've outgrown it.
Like we've outgrown it. Like the world has changed since Game of Thrones. And, if anybody that's been following this podcast knows that I've actually revisited season 1 of Game of Thrones and season 8 via my mom.
Because your mom, right? Yeah, that's right.
And P.S., season 8, after 3 years removed from all the hype, not that bad. Not as bad as you remember it. And still just top-notch, highest quality TV making. So that all said, coming back to House of the Dragon, which takes place, 172 years before all the stuff from the original series takes place. I mean, it feels almost way too familiar, right? Like we got all the blood, we got boobs, we got Iron Throne competition, we got incest. And it just made me feel like, yes, I do enjoy this. Yes, this is quite good. This is high quality stuff. And there really isn't anything on TV that's like it. However, because it is so much like Game of Thrones, it kept making me wonder if anything is actually different. Like, are they trying to say something new with this show? Right? Like, part of why Game of Thrones was such an amazing series in the first place was because at the time, there was nothing else like it, right? We were used to Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter and stuff like that, but there wasn't this kind of high fantasy that was also mature and had really cutthroat politics all wrapped up and interweaving throughout, right? Like that was the main thrust of Game of Thrones. That was new.
No one done that.
It wasn't really about the magic. It wasn't really about dragons. It wasn't really about the fantasy nature of it, but it was about the political intrigue. And so we're getting all of that again here in this first episode, and so it feels a lot like a retread of the original series. And as much as I enjoyed it, I still just am wondering, like, what is the thing that is going to make House of the Dragon stand on its own legs?
I don't know if that's a bad thing, in the sense that, like, you know, whenever you do a franchise of IP, whether it's The Matrix or Fast and the Furious or Lord of the Rings, whenever new movies come out in that world, they're often dealing with maybe similar themes, similar styles, similar stories, because that's what the fans of those series enjoy about that world. And I get what you're saying. Like, maybe you want something new. And so, like, I think I could totally respect that. I don't know if they're going to give us something new or not, but that may not be their intention as the makers of the show. They may actually just want to, like, bring us into the same world and be like, hey, some of this was actually still the same. Even 100, 200 years before, the story just has a different characters to it. But the Game of Thrones never changes, right? Like, there is something to that maybe they wanted to bring in. So I don't know.
Brian, my answer to yours of what's going to be different, because I thought about this.
And you've read the books.
Well, yeah, but you know what? But I'm not even going to bring that into this, because I don't want to spoil stuff, and I want to appreciate this as two things. I'll just leave that out. The biggest thing that's going to work to the show's advantage that's different, Brian, is that this, by nature, is a smaller, more contained story. And the biggest issues that Game of Thrones had was kind of what made it great. It was this huge, multiple continent, across the world epic, but it was too big for its own good, and it literally collapsed under the weight of its own story, and you couldn't get a conclusion. That's what made the ending bad, that specific thing, and the source material not being done. For this one, the source material is already done. If you read the books, you already know how this ends. If you watch the show carefully, when they do their little history monologues, they mention how this already ends, if you really want to dig deep. So them already having, well, yeah, I just think a smaller story in itself lends itself to addressing the issues that Game of Thrones had. There's no characters. It's not going to be a cross-continent epic. Like, it's not. We know that this is going to be a conflict within the Targaryens of Westeros and what happened with their beef. So it's going to be a dense, rich story, but you don't have to worry about a character who's across the continent who hasn't interacted with half the cast and literally just has their entire own arc. You know, that's not really an issue this show has, just writing and setting wise. And I do think that'll work to its advantage.
I mean, this feels like a smaller show. Even in Game of Thrones episode 1, you're in King's Landing, you're in Winterfell, you're in Bravos, maybe, where Daenerys is living.
I forgot where she was, but she's across the Red Sea, across the ocean.
All over the place in episode 1 or 2, and so much happens in this episode in House of the Dragon. We are contained almost entirely to the Red Keep and, like, the streets of King's Landing. Nothing outside of those things happens, except the funeral, right? And the tournament is in King's Landing. The streets of are the purge by the City Watch. Yep, that's in King's Landing, right? And it's very small. They only show you one small street of what they did. They didn't, like, go everywhere in the city, and then everything else takes place in the Red Keep. So I think you're kind of right. Like, it felt like a smaller show, but not smaller in a way that the production value was less, right? That street scene where the gold cloaks go through, that could have looked really cheesy, because it could have looked very brutal. Fake, right? Like the streets weren't lived in, and it looked real. They looked like they were real people living in this small little alleyway. So, props to them for doing that. We already have quite a few characters dropping into this world that are a little bit hard to keep track of, if I'm honest.
Is it the names or the hair?
For me, it's mostly
everybody's
the hair.
a Malfoy.
Yeah. Yeah. But is there anybody you're hating, anybody you're loving, anybody that's standing out to you, Brian?
So I think you both are going to talk about some of the other characters, but I wanted to take a moment to hate on King Viserys.
Please, let's hate.
As soon as this dude comes on screen, I'm just like, wow, he does not fit in Westeros. Like, he's just, him and his hangdog face is just really bothering me, and his wig I don't think is a proper fit. And then,
is he too nice for the world?
Yeah, there's something about his presence that just seems like he is a little nice, but also a little bit of an idiot.
The brother calls it out. The brother says that. He says exactly what you're saying.
He just does not belong in this universe of Westeros. Like, even we've had bad kings and bad characters before. Bad in the sense of like within Westeros, they kind of lead themselves astray. Ned Stark leads himself astray, right? But he's still a character you can root for. Mm-hmm. But King Viserys just seems like really out of it. And of course he like then doubles down on that and kills his wife. Makes the decision to kill his wife. She was going to be a goner anyways.
She was going to be gone.
Oh God, Wes.
No, I don't think so.
Wes's misogyny rears its head again.
That was bad.
No, like even my wife, who is a doctor, was like, if that baby is breached, there's very little chance she's going to survive.
Who is she? Well, as in the wife?
The wife.
I mean, in context of the show, though, they make it sound like it's a choice.
Right.
It's like one or the other. And he does not have a conversation with the queen at all. And he's just going
She's
for
clearly not about that. She's like, no, what is this? Absolutely not. She had no agency in that.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's pretty unforgivable.
It was horrible, yeah.
And so he's just kind of awful all over the place. However, I will say towards the end of the episode, maybe he does redeem himself slightly, particularly because he hands over the keys to the kingdom to Princess Rhaenyra, who I have a feeling may be the queen that we've always wanted from the Game of Thrones universe, right? She's not the whiny Daenerys who feels entitled to her throne but can't have it. Rather, she's somebody who seems very precocious beyond her years. Maybe
poised.
not entirely. She's not that interested in the throne. Like, she wants to explore the world. And she's got this great connection with the dragons, but now she's being thrust into this position, and it seems like she has kind of the grace and the character traits to succeed at it. But again, is being pressured into the situation. So I think that'll be a very interesting character arc to watch for throughout the rest of the series.
She's the dad. The dad made her the consolation prize. I don't think he redeemed himself at all. What kind of whackness is that? That's like if my dad just realized my brother tears his AC. It's like if my dad ignores me my whole life and then my athlete brother gets hurt and then he decides to suddenly take interest. Oh, you're a prodigal son. I'm like, bro, hold on. What was all that energy X years ago? Like, that's like, this is an example, people. I have a great relationship with my brother and father. But like, damn, I was like, yo, F this dude.
At least he had, the guts to actually admit that he was wrong.
Yeah. He did.
Yeah, I guess once you lose your heir and wife, I guess your options get real limited.
Yeah. His attention isn't being drawn anywhere else now.
Like, cool.
Man, but that is going to change in a hurry. They've foreshadowed that. So my focus, I think, in the beginning, or at least the first half, was just the kinetic energy of Daemon. I mean, him being so brutal, but not brutal all the time not like he wasn't just a mercenary, he wasn't just a killer, he wasn't bloodthirsty.
He's not a rabid dog.
Yeah, right. But he is like he's not the Mountain
but he
from
dog.
Game of Thrones. But he's pretty brutal, and you get to see him full on display. Like, he'll do anything to win. He trips the horse in the tournament. Like, that was a low blow. But you do get to see him. He does care for his family. He does care for his brother in his own way. And the actor, I watched some of those behind the scenes. The actor says he does love his brother. It's a normal brother relationship. There isn't like an animosity there. He wants to support his brother, but that is obviously going to be tested now that he's been banished from King's Landing. I wonder if he's going to be more than a one-note character, because that first episode, he's pretty one-note. He's very much just like you said, the kind of enforcer, the brutal guy, not really like thinking long term or strategizing about what he wants to do. So it'll be interesting to see if they can do more with him as the show goes on. I really had a special hate in my heart for Otto Hightower, the guy who is the Hand of the King.
They make you like him so much at first, and then
he seems reasonable,
right? He seems really competent, right?
Yeah.
Wait.
Yeah. You're like, oh, this is the Hand of the King that every king like probably needs, like, because we never saw that in Game of Thrones. Like, they always had useless Hand of the Kings, except for Tyrion,
Tyrion was all right.
And Tywin
he
was
got
good too.
sidelined, though.
Tywin and Tyrion were both good.
Yeah, but they got sidelined a lot. Anyways, and then he says, "Hey, daughter, teenage daughter, maybe 12 years old in the show or something like that. Go comfort the king." Like hours, maybe minutes after the king's wife had just died in childbirth, the king's son had just died in childbirth. Like, bro, can we let the ashes like cool down a little bit? Like, let's put them in an urn first, or in the ground, or let them spread something. But like,
wait, so you're worried about the timing here, and not
all
the
of
offer?
All of it is gross.
No,
and I know
you have to wait a week. Clearly, that's the appropriate amount of time to pimp your daughter out to the morning king.
Yeah. It's horrible. Like this guy, like, man, fuck him. Like seriously, I don't know, what a horrible thing. And his daughter goes along with it, and it's not her fault. But like, man, like that dude sucks. Like, I was so mad that he was doing that. Like, dude, you're supposed to be helping the king, and now you're in it for your own power, and you're using your daughter as like just a sexual, like, I don't know, something bait. I'm not even sure what that was.
And
good thing Viserys is a loser and doesn't belong in Westeros and did not take said bait.
He didn't take.
At least we didn't see it.
Yeah, but he's going to. He's going to.
Is he?
Yeah, I think so. In the trailers and stuff, like
I didn't watch the trailer.
In the trailers.
Oh, she gets sent multiple times to the king's chambers.
I bet. I mean, and then she's kind of at odds with Rhaenyra, even though they're obviously good friends in this beginning episode. They're going to be at odds with each other. So
ooh, I didn't watch the preview thing, so that'll be exciting.
Yeah, they've got like knives to each other's throats.
Oh, ooh.
So I mean, I think, and Jen says she thought she saw that there was a son involved. So like, we think like the friend Alice, what's her name? Alicent is gonna give birth to the king's son, and now he's gonna struggle with like, okay, well, I already said I'm gonna give like the heir to my daughter, but now I have a son. Maybe it should go to him instead. Like, I don't know if he's gonna be torn about it, or if the king's gonna be torn about it, or maybe this is just us reading too much into it. But that's where we thought we saw in the trailers. I don't know for sure, but I think that's where it's going. I think he is gonna take on Alicent as his next wife or next mistress or something.
Interesting theory. I like it.
That sucks, man. Sucks.
Game of Thrones.
Hate that guy.
Game of Thrones title card.
All right. Who's next? So, Savon, you haven't gotten yours. Who's sticking out to you?
I think part of it's Daemon because I don't like him. Immediately his impression
I
was
don't like
immediately
him. His
negative.
face is weird. He looks like a vampire.
Yeah, he looks like Malekith from Thor.
Yes,
he's a dark elf.
Yes. All right, he's a dark elf.
Point
not
is,
to be racist against elves, guys.
Oh my god,
Savon already made them slaves.
No, I'm not. No, good callback though. Great callback. I stand by that.
That is a house elf.
That is on record.
That got edited out. we took that. That's on the cutting board.
Okay,
I'm a Daemon fan. Not likable, annoying, but he's one of those characters who you don't like him, but he has a lot of valid points. Like when to Brian,
he's like the Hound, right? The Hound was like that in the first show.
Yeah, but he's in a position of power. He clearly abuses his thing as just being sibling to the king to do whatever the hell he wants. That's still not likable. But when he says that his brother is weak and people manipulate him, he was absolutely right. Yeah. When everyone hops on his bumper after the wife dies, when we learn that even the king's hand, who we think is competent and is competent, honestly, still tries to manipulate him. Like, you might not like everything the brother's doing, but you can't say that the man is wrong. And again, I like that brother relationship they have. But what I'm really excited for is more of House Valerian. They are much more fleshed out in the book series, and they have ties to the Targaryens. That's why they have the silver hair. But yeah, that house as a whole just has a lot of influence, a lot of money, a lot of power, and they're definitely going to be, because we know the premise of this show is that it basically ends up being some kind of like, well, I don't know. Do y'all know what the larger conflict is? I don't want to accidentally spoil something. Never mind. All right. Never mind. But
I'm sure there will be a battle of dragons.
Yeah.
That's all. Point is,
a lot of stuff is going to happen, and when one person is on the council and is extremely rich and one of the richest people in the city, that's going to be interesting to watch play out. And knowing that his wife was also competent and was almost queen. They're just a very wise and powerful house who are going to definitely be needle movers in whatever the larger conflict is. And just seeing how that plays out, I'm excited. And naturally, I'm always a fan when you got a black Game of Thrones character. Shout out to the hair people. The white dreadlock wig, I liked it. It worked. It worked. I was really looking at it close, like, all right, it's not like a Tyler Perry movie where they just do them people dirty. I had to look, I was like, all right, All right, I'm with this.
That dude legit looks like he could be online for coffee in Brooklyn.
Yep.
Like, I feel like I've seen him in my block.
Shout out to him for putting his hand over the cup at the council meeting, because you don't get sauce when you're trying to make big baller moves. I like that.
Fair enough. Did in Game of Thrones, so when we advance 200 years or so into the future, there is no House Valerion that's important, right?
No.
Okay, so either in this story or in the intervening time, this house disappears. We can assume? I mean, it must be.
I don't want to accidentally spoil anything that might happen.
But I think we can assume if it didn't show up in the second show, the house either disappears in this show.
But we also know all the Targaryens are basically gone.
Yeah, exactly. We also know some families marry into other families too, so people exist by blood, but not by name. Because it might be a woman who was married into a different house. So it's complicated. I don't want to accidentally spoil anything, so I'm gonna just leave that.
Yeah, and we know that the Targaryens, like you said, are going to disappear pretty much, except for Viserys and Daenerys. Right? They'll be around, but pretty much everybody in their lineage is disappearing, and then the Baratheons take over, or Robert Baratheon takes over, because Jaime kills the last Targaryen king, right?
Yeah, the dude was insane.
The Mad King.
The Mad King. Yeah, we don't know. We haven't met the Mad King here.
Viserys is just the bad.
No, this is generations before the Mad King's even born.
All right, so let's keep it moving. We're almost done here. In typical Game of Thrones of fashion, we get a lot of sex, a lot of violence.
Yeah.
Chopped off penis and balls, I think.
Yeah.
What scene stood out to you the most? Was it anything from the brutality? Was it a political side? What kind of stands out to you here, Brian?
I mean, I think there are a lot of obvious ones, but I want to call out the funeral scene, which I thought was actually quite poignant. Once we get that close up of,
did Anna cry?
Anna cries throughout the entire show, no matter what. That's actually not true. But anyway, we see the queen wrapped up on a pyre, but then we get the close up of the baby also wrapped up on the pyre, and I thought that was a nice reveal of, okay, Viserys, you went for the baby, but how did that turn out for you?
Lost
awful.
Yeah, but I think this was actually a great scene for Rhaenyra, right? Who kind of takes charge emotionally on behalf of the king and on behalf of the Targaryen household, to be the most mature, to shoulder the burdens of all the emotional anguish at play, and then we also get to see Daemon approach her and encourage her to do that. So I think it adds some texture to him as a character. He's not all bad, right? He
loves his family.
Does care about his family, and maybe he loves some of his family a little too much.
I did get those vibes too.
That's a Targaryen way, though. That's by design. That's their house
necklace, thing. Yeah. House of the Dragon. I mean, it's also just House of Incest. So, is what it is. But so we get the layers from there, and then of course you get the dragon on top of the mountain, just waiting, with its two stewards standing by, and Rhaenyra steps forward, and I said it before she even said it on screen, and it's just you knew it was coming, Dracarys. And the last time we heard that was from Daenerys when she burned all of King's Landing, essentially.
She wore crown that place.
Yeah, I mean, she went full Targaryen, and so coming full circle now, 172 years prior to that, and having Rhaenyra, who in a lot of ways is like a redo for Game of Thrones series, as the queen, as the women protagonist. Her uttering Dracarys in the way that she does too, it's very, I don't know, there's something about it. It had a lot of composure to it and a lot of control, and it's very, very much the opposite of how Daenerys did at the end of the original series. So I think that was just a really well done scene and a nice callback on all those levels.
I enjoyed it. I'm with you.
Nice. I actually, in Game of Thrones, often found the Great Council meetings a little bit boring. It was sort of like, okay, I kind of get it, like whatever. But I actually found in this episode that they were illuminating and opened a lot of questions, and I thought they were really important for non-action scenes to really set the stage for what's going on in the city, what's happening in the kingdom, and what's happening with the power and the influence, and where people are sort of hoping and seeing the crown go, or the monarchy go. So I actually found in this particular episode, I don't know if I'd want to keep watching more Great Council meetings, but I actually thought that here, yeah, I thought that in this episode, they really worked well. And they opened a lot of intrigue into, okay, I want to know more about Corlys Velaryon. I want to know more about what is Hightower up to, and even what is the Maester up to, right? Like, we know that the Maesters are pretty incompetent for a lot of Game of Thrones. And are they going to be the same here? Are they going to be less trained and more open to like new ideas, or are they going to be, just as incompetent as many of the Maesters were in Game of Thrones? So I actually found that pretty cool. Yeah. I mean, the brutal scenes were, I couldn't look away. I mean, I think that's to be said, but I was surprised at how like intrigued I was actually by the dialogue in certain scenes, even more so than the brutality of balls getting chopped off and limbs getting chopped off and axes to the face that was happening in the tournament. Like, all of that I couldn't stop watching that either. But props to the show for making the slow moments meaningful, for me at least.
I forgot about the balls. Damn.
You never forget about the balls, bro.
Oh man, I couldn't even tell what they were because they're all mashed to pieces, like just
I think
tenderized chicken.
Yeah, I think that's the okay. Yeah, I think that's the point, though. It's meant to be nasty and brutal. I'm with you, though. I love those council meetings. I love them being able to show, hey, we still can do the political intrigue. And those little nuggets they give you of, hey, here's a place you see in the main series. Hey, this is what's happening way before. Because it's not a bunch of organized cities yet. They kind of hint that they're building something up. And, we're like, oh, we know what this looks like literally 200 years later. I like little moments like that of, hey, this is something that you see in the main series without being
but there's more unification at this point in time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I'm just saying, when you do any prequel series, there's little fun moments where you can, hey, look at this, that's going to happen down the line. It's fun. Yep.
Word. All right, so what are your hopes for the series? This will be our last question, probably just a summary or a sentence or two, a little summary. What are you hoping for? Savon, start us off.
Main thing I'm hoping for is just... it's not even hoping, because I just can tell already that that's what's going to happen from just the books, I think. But we're going to have a tight, more contained series. We're going to have a lot of interesting character beefs. And I think what Game of Thrones is, what they are good at is they're very good at making you change your feelings about a character over time, for better or for worse. And if it's one thing we've learned just through life, through these shows, is that when wars pop off, when things pop off, when beef pops off, good people do things that are very morally questionable. And you start to see people's true colors, or maybe have them change in good or bad ways. And there's people who we're rooting for now that we know in a month we're going to be like, oh, F them, and someone else, and vice versa. And I just love watching the pendulum swing on cheering for characters. So as long as we get that by putting them in very challenging situations, which, again, from the premise of this show is going to happen, I think it's going to be really entertaining.
I mean, the characters that are quote unquote good, right, that do the quote unquote right thing, they die, or they get banished, or they get eliminated in some way. So of course you only have characters who are good, who do morally questionable things that advance themselves, or you have bad characters who do morally questionable things or just morally wrong things and advance themselves. But there isn't much room in this world, in this kingdom, and that's very clear right from the get-go, for folks who are doing good and doing the right thing. Maybe the Targaryens here in this particular history of time will be the outlier, but it doesn't really seem like
Ultras do not win in this world.
No,
it's just the
case.
If you're Ultras, you're just setting yourself up to be liked and take a fat
failure. Setting up for failure.
All right, Brian, Game of Thrones, you play to win or you die.
Yeah, it's that. Brian, what are you hoping for?
Well, so I know that George R. Martin really pushed for this particular story to be made into a series. And I know that he is very much involved in how this is being made right now. and he was also left out of the latter half of the original series, right? Like he was he was kind of, he kind of dropped off. It's unclear, how intentional that was, if he just left to go write or whatever. But
didn't do enough writing.
I mean, yeah, that book's not out and not gonna be out. But anyway, so I'm just hoping that this is not he's not thinking of this as his opportunity to put his stamp back on Game of Thrones, right? Like he is, I'm sure, fully aware that people did not like the end of the original series. And I just don't want him to be caught in this trap of trying very hard to basically do a redo of Game of Thrones here with House of the Dragon. The way that he's talking about House of the Dragon is like, this is perfect for the series. It's got blood and dragons and all the other things that you want out of the Game of Thrones. Versus, some of the series that took place like 1,000 years before Game of Thrones, stuff like that. So, I would love for this series to just really take off and have its own voice, right? Like really branch out, try something new. It can still be Game of Thrones, but it can also be something else. Like I want it to be Better Call Saul rather than Breaking Bad redo, essentially. So here's hoping they actually deliver on that.
I think they will. I really think that smaller contained story we already have an outline for how it ends is going to blend to exactly that. Because Better Call Saul, right? Like you already knew what the natural ending point was going to be. It was just a matter of getting there. And I do think this show is going to be good in a very similar way, except Breaking Bad, didn't suck.
I mean, that's also true of the Star Wars prequels. We knew where it was going to end, but that doesn't mean that they were good.
Star Wars prequels are amazing. I won't entertain any prequel slander. I want episode 1 was the bomb. Episode 2 it had its moments. It wasn't perfect. Episode 3, I still argue is the best Star Wars. I won't hear that from you oldies.
Oh my God.
You're so bad.
You're bad. I'm not entertaining this. Y'all are bad.
Hayden Christensen's acting for me.
Total childhood nostalgia take.
Oh, damn straight. That's the point. I saw that when I was 12 and like 10 and like 7. Damn right.
All right. I'm ready for the show. I didn't think I was. I got burned, I think, by the last season of Game of Thrones and just really stopped thinking about this world. And seeing that first episode, I was like, ooh, this feels fun. This feels intriguing. Like I'm actually kind of in a lull right now with shows. And so it felt like this is a show I'm really looking forward to every week. I'm hoping the next one comes out, like tomorrow. It's not tomorrow, but I want it to come out tomorrow. I want to see the next episode, see where it goes. Rhaenyra really intrigues me. And I'm not actually expecting what Brian is hoping for. I mean, if they give it to us, it's great, but I don't need them to write The Wire or, Breaking Bad here. I just give me some interesting characters, give me some cool action scenes, make it fun, make it compelling, give us some cool stories. I'm happy with that. I think what they've set up so far lends itself to like going good places, and I'm ready for it. So I'm excited for this series. I think they've shown that like they're on a track that I'm like down with. So cool to see where it goes.
The man wants his popcorn.
Hell yeah, man.
Give it to him.
I expect good writing.
You expect good writing?
I'm gonna hold that standard to them. I think some shows.
I don't know. I go Did into Game of Thrones have good writing?
Absolutely. The problem was that they ran out of
TV.
Yeah, they just ran out of books. George R. Martin's fault. It sucked once they ran out of book to adapt, and then the dudes had to start coming up with their own stuff. And it's like, hey, that's not what they do here. They adapt, not create.
Yeah.
I'm saying that's unfair to them. I'll be mad if I was adapting something and then they said, hey, Savon, we know you've just been adapting from this. Now we need you to just make it because the dude who you're supposed to be getting it from is like taking his time. I'm like, oh, bet?
I mean, there's been a lot written about why maybe George R. Martin and other authors like him end up not finishing or struggling to finish. And part of it is they just sort of write themselves into a corner and aren't able to get out of it in a way that's actually, satisfying. So I feel bad for him. I know he takes a lot of flack for not writing and not finishing and like literally just
people have lived and died.
Yeah, but he
waiting for those books.
Yeah, but he doesn't owe anybody. It's just like, hey, if he could write it, he would, and if he can't, he can't. You know, that's sometimes how things go. Like I don't know the writing process as he does. He obviously put out 2 or 3, 4 like amazing books that people love. Like that's an accomplishment most writers would say, hey, like that's a career right there. So
he's just got to feed his books to some AI and let it do the writing for him.
Yeah, get a ghostwriter, dog.
All right, let's go ahead and end it there. We'll check in the next few weeks about, I don't know, what do we got? We still got She-Hulk. We still got Harley Quinn. The Lord of the Rings show is coming out soon, so I'm sure we'll talk about that. And then Andor is also coming out.
Yeah, and then Black Panther coming soon. That's in a couple. I mean, it's like in 2 months. In
November,
that's right around the corner, though.
All right. So we got a lot of stuff that we could talk about, but obviously find us on socials at confidently_pod. I've been loving to see some people's reactions, views, comments that people have been sending into the story. So I hope that'll continue. Savon, keep posting those questions.
I'll do what I can.
They're intriguing, and I love to see what other people come up with. Brian doesn't respond, I'm sure. He's too above that. He's got to keep his,
Brian got awards to win.
Yeah, he's got to keep.
You
got to
work, man. Work to get that work.
All right, friends, have a good one. Yo.